Hey guys, so just a quick little bit of homework before we get started. We're going to be going through 3 simple steps to stop you losing your super, related around like the government trying to take it. You perhaps getting not very great results that like you were expecting. And sort of why having an industry super could well mean that your super balance is going to drop down to almost nothing. So first of all, a little bit of homework, as I said. So not homework, but a little bit of housekeeping. So if you could just say yes if you can hear me, that would be really good. Okay, that's great. And also, if you can see my screen that says 3 simple steps to stop you losing your super, if you could say yes to that too, that would be absolutely fantastic. Okay, yeah, right, that's good. Good. Okay, so let's get going then. So welcome everybody. I'm really excited to share some ideas that I know will change your lives as they have for me, so you can protect your super funds and make your future a better place. So should we get started? So a little bit of a disclaimer. The information that you're going to hear tonight is today is of a general nature only. I need to be able to understand your personal situation to be able to tell you anything about any specific advice. What I can tell you is that we're adopting some principles that you're going to learn and that are really going to change your life for the better. What I am not is a financial planner or accountant or broker. What I am is an investor who has worked with clients, and I choose to work with a highly qualified and skilled team of specialists from all various aspects required to build a sound investment. So that's a little bit of stuff there for you. So stop the government stealing. So the government is currently stealing your super if you're a public servant. So what I mean by that is that in the recent budget, they actually decided that they were going to start going after some of the parts of super that public servants have, and use that to pay down debt for the government. So just so you know, and I'll tell you more about that later. And just one other thing, you can ask questions in the chat box throughout this presentation, and I'll try to answer them toward the end of the webinar, just so we can make sure that we can get through everything, because I'm very aware that you're having your lunch break and you're watching me while you do it, and I'm honoured and I'm very happy that you've done that. But I'll try and keep things quick as I possibly can. Okay, so these 3 lovely chaps. The one on the left is Mark Robinson. The one on the right is Mike Curtis, and I'm in the middle. I'm Martin Platt. Now, the other 2 couldn't make it on this particular webinar, so you just stuck with me today, unfortunately, or fortunately for you. So we'll go on. So when I'm talking, I tend to get a little bit excited when I'm passionate about things. So sometimes I talk a little faster and I move about a lot. So is it okay if I do that from time to time? Yep, cool. I hope this helps you to see when I'm excited about something as I talk, and I get excited too, that you should too, because it's a little bit of a hint, just something to be aware of there. So summary of what we're going to talk about today is that you need to take control of your super fund. You need to get better super fund returns, and you need a good team to help you do that. So this is not a get-rich-quick scheme. It's not an overhyped sales seminar with no real content. It's not a sales seminar at all, in fact. And it's not pure theory with no results to back it up, because I personally have done this, and the other guys, if they were here, they have done it too, and many other clients have also done the same and got the same incredible results. And that for itself should speak volumes. And that's how I actually got into this in the first place. Was I wanted a financial planner who didn't put me into the sort of boring stuff with boring returns that I knew were just not going to work. And these people were clearly not doing what they were, the advice that they were giving. And I wanted somebody who was actually doing this and actually working towards their own financial freedom, or were actually there. That was my ideal. But if I could see somebody who was making the right noises, that was important to me. And I'm so glad I did. So it's not going to happen overnight. And this, like I say, this information is is me basically saying, do as I do. I'm not just saying it. This really, really works. So first thing, you need to take control. So as I said, the government is already taking super funds and saying they will pay them back later if you're a public servant. So don't think that it won't happen to you, because it already is happening. And that link down there, I don't expect that you'll be able to get this straight off. Although if you put a post in our Facebook page where you would have got to this, you can absolutely, I'll absolutely send that to you, because it is an interesting read. And this is happening all over. To be perfectly honest with you, it started off with all the unclaimed super, and it was a bit of a test by the government to see whether people would complain about having super being taken and given to the government, and nobody did. So then they started along the line of starting to take other stuff and see whether people would complain about it. And so far it's slipped under the radar, and everybody thinks that the government wouldn't do that to them, and they're all safe, and that the super is going to be brilliant. And I'm sorry, but that's just not the case. So why is control important? So if you have control over your super fund, then it makes it very hard for the government to take any of your money. You have control as well over the fees that you pay and how those fees are used to increase your super funds. So what I mean by that is that basically when you have an industry super, you're working with managed funds, the person that's managing it will get paid regardless, and he or she may have a performance bonus that you don't get to see what that performance bonus is, or you don't have any control over it, is basically what I'm saying. Whereas you can have a lot more control over that, as we're going to find out shortly. So why will the government then leave you alone? Well, you're going to be at the back of the queue for super accounts that they can take chunks out of, just because you're no longer easy pickings. They're looking for quick and easy wins. They're looking for quick and easy places to take money from, so that they can look awesome in a very short amount of time and say, look, during our term in government, we did this, that, and the other, and look at the money that we've saved. When really all they've done is they've just moved money that was never theirs into a different location that they're going to have to pay back. So they've actually done absolutely nothing. And then they probably then run a load of TV adverts to say how awesome they are, and they're just wasting your money. I'm a little bit cynical there. Anyway, so imagine all those hours that you've worked to build up that super, and the government's just going to come along and take your money and promise to pay it back. But they're just not going to do it. Like I say, they need the super to pay for the budget now. It's getting worse and worse and worse as time goes on. And it will get only worse in the future, because they're basically using debt to pay down debt. So it's getting worse and worse and worse in an exponential manner. And more on that a little bit later, how that's going to impact things as well. But your super will be gone, and you basically let them do it, and you didn't do anything to stop them. When you absolutely can. There's a very simple way to do that, as you're going to find out. So it's a little bit like lending your car to a car thief and then expecting him to return it to you in perfect condition. Yeah, really, that's what it's like. It's ridiculous that people are saying, "Oh no, that won't happen to me." It's that bad. I mean, you think of making this stuff up. Work it out for yourself. Super is worth more than $2 trillion, and is increasing at about 10% per year. That's a huge pot of money that the government's just not going to be able to resist getting their hands on. So examples of the current government plans on saving, this is the Queensland government, but these sort of things are across other states as well. Plans on saving Queensland $3.4 billion by changing the way it funds entitlements, particularly long service leave for public servants. The government will also take a contribution from the defined benefit scheme, and I've heard a lot of people saying, "Oh, I'm glad I'm on defined benefit scheme because they're not going to bother me." Well, they are already. You are in a lot of pain because they are actually doing that, and the plan is to reduce the Queensland state debt by $2 billion over 5 years. That's coming from your super fund. There's no other way to say that. So questions, I just want to get you thinking a little bit. You know, what do you want to do with your super when you retire, and how involved do you want to be in running your super up until that time? So we definitely need to talk. As I said before, you know, many of our clients have done this successfully, and we need to find out your specific circumstances so we can find out whether it will suit you, your specific needs, and I guess also whether you can work with us and we can work with you. I mean, you got to be able to work well together. We're not coming here and you know, assuming that will be the case. We may just not get on, but this is absolutely not a one size fits all deal. You know, we can't give you advice and say, oh well, you're just about to retire. That's the same as somebody who's in the mid-20s. It's just not. It's just so different. And you know, if all you can do is you can just change how aggressive you are in a stock market, that's not very that's not really taking you into account at all either. So what is your biggest worry? You know, what are you worried about with your super fund? I mean, are you thinking it's too late to start? You don't have enough money in your super fund and there's not enough time to make money? Well, there's no doubt about it. The earlier that you start, the better off you are. I mean, that's absolutely true. But in the time that you have left, maybe we can still do some really good returns on what you have left. The biggest thing that you really have to get your head around is that when you have control over it, you can see what the result is going to be at the end of it. You get into a contract, if you like, with somebody, and you know at the end what you've already got a very good idea what those returns are going to be. Whereas currently, I bet you've absolutely no idea what how much your super fund will increase in the coming year, if it does at all. You've just got no clue. So how can you possibly plan for your future and retiring and having a pension if you've got no idea year on year what's actually happening to it? It's only after the fact when it's too late. So just something to think about. There was some fairly extreme movements in the stock market that I believe are an early warning sign of things to come. Like I said before, the world is getting into more and more debt. And when that happens, you have corrections that occur in the stock market. And they're called corrections. I mean, basically what it is that things are getting more and more expensive, going up and up in value. And they need to sort of even out, level off, that sort of thing. And that's basically what we mean by a correction. So an example of that most recently would be something like the global financial crisis. Now, in the global financial crisis, and I bet you're all thinking this, in Australia, we came out pretty well. We were largely, it was a little bit painful, but not really anywhere near as bad as many of the other countries experienced. And a lot of that was due to the demand for natural resources from the Chinese. Now, more recently, the Chinese demand has slowed down a bit, which could be in part due to their increasing levels of debt. Yeah, they've sort of made their economy look like it was booming when really they're quite highly leveraged and they've got quite a lot of debt that they're not managing to pay for, like pretty much every other country. They just did it on a bigger scale, so they're more likely to implode. quicker. And what that means for Australia is if this happens again, we're going down like everybody else. So, I mean, you may well have experienced a drop in the value of your super during the GFC, or more recently in the little stock market drop that happened, a few weeks ago. It may well have gone up because I noticed today, I was watching the news and I noticed today that there's been a big rally, particularly on the American markets because of the fact that they're holding interest rates, which is kind of ridiculous, to be honest with you, really, because like low interest rates means the economy is doing poorly, which means that you're not getting very good tax, payments, because people are not earning the money. So the rate stays low. So that's an indication that things are not going well, but the stock market reacted positively to that. And what it basically means is that this, like I said, it's an early warning sign, and I believe there's going to be a much, much bigger one, bigger than the GFC. As I said, that was, I told you the reasons why, and that recent movement was like a warning sign for things that are going to happen in the next maybe year, maybe 2 years, something like that. Might be actually less than that, but you really need to be preparing for that now. I mean, that's just my opinion, by the way. I'm just looking at the levels of debt and what actually is happening in the world, and this just cannot go on. So also, you need to get better super returns. So I was recently reading a study that was saying that Australians who retire at age 65 need to contribute for 40 years at a rate of 19.5% of their salary. Now, that's obviously going to be based on average salaries in Australia. So it will possibly be a little bit less if you're paid very well. If you're paid, if you're under the average, then you'll have to pay more. But 19.5% of your salary, nobody's doing that. We're currently contributing 9.5%. And probably if you're out of work for any amount of time, you're probably going to be contributing even less than that. So we've got a bit of catching up to do. So, you're going to be a good long way behind to be able to get enough money to be able to live comfortably by the time you retire at 65. It's just not going to happen, is it? I mean, those stats by themselves speak volumes. This is based on a contribution of 9.5% and an average return of around about 7% per year over the lifetime of your super. So basically, that's going to be less than half of what it needs to be in 40 years. The contribution, not the end amount. The end amount, because of compounding interest, is going to be a lot less. And you'll see some more information on that in a little while. So the other thing that we could do, instead of contributing more, I mean, you could contribute a little bit more, but there are limits before you hit sort of tax. You start getting to pay more tax, and it becomes less and less efficient. And let's be honest about it. Why would you lock that in for that amount of time when you've not got tax? It's not a tax efficient structure, and you can do less with it when you could actually invest outside and be paying the same tax and it be a little bit more flexible. I'm not talking about anything other than super at the moment, but I just thought I'd point that out. So the other thing we could do, instead of paying a bigger contribution, is to get better returns. That's also going to balance things out nicely. So why would you care about how much you're paying into your super? Well, even though it possibly doesn't feel like it now, if you're in your 20s or your 30s, you're probably thinking, well, it doesn't matter because it's years and years away, but it's your money. And the more you do earlier on, the easier it is to have a good lifestyle when you retire. And when you retire, you're going to be at least 70 years old, because the government just keeps putting the age up and up. And that, by the way, is absolutely ridiculous. Nobody is going to employ a 70-year-old when there's people who are much younger in the workplace. It's just not going to happen. It's not. It's just ignoring the obvious. That's quite. I just think that's wrong. Saying that. I mean, it's just not. It's not going to happen. People are going to be told, yeah, you need to go and work, and then the employers are going to be saying, well, we don't need somebody who's 70 years old working for us because they're not as quick as somebody who's younger. And that's not in any way disrespectful to somebody who's 70 years old or 65 years old, 60 years old. It's just the reality. It's just the way things are. I certainly don't want to be working when I'm that age. No way. I want to be chilling out and relaxing. And if somebody's forcing me to work, then there's a good chance I'm going to be chilling out and relaxing even then. So that's the reality. And yeah, once your money is gone, you're never getting it back, no matter what the government says. It's garbage. So a little bit on some facts and figures. Now, first of all, the little graph to the right of the screen is showing you compounding returns. And like I say, the difference, so this is the difference between the blue line and the orange line of a 10% increase in returns. So this is nothing to do with increasing contributions. This is actually based off every year contributing 9.5% of a $50,000 salary, which turns out to be $4,750 a year, which is not a lot. It really isn't. So I'm being incredibly conservative with this just to prove a point to you that this is very achievable for anybody, pretty much no matter how much you get paid. I mean, I've picked 50,000 as an average sort of salary, just roughly speaking. I mean, you may be paid less and you'll be contributing less, but you'll probably also get some benefits from the government in another place that you might still be able to contribute the same sort of amount. But even if you don't, I mean, the difference is going to be negligible at that. If you're being paid 100,000 or 150,000, obviously that orange line would be a lot steeper and the end result would be a lot higher. And the blue line, just so you know, is based off, if you see the table at the bottom, QSuper, that was recently taken from their website, and the 10 years per annum, the return was 7.05%. So I'm not making this up. This is directly from QSuper. And that's what they're telling you. Yes, they might have done over 1 year 12.45%, fantastic. But what that also tells you is because the stock market is cyclic, that you're due very soon for a big drop. It's got to. It can't keep going up. It'll drop in value, and your super will drop in value with it because you're heavily invested in the stock market. That's just the reality of the way that they do things, because it's one size fits all rather than you picking something that works better or works for you, that sort of thing. So the upshot of this anyway is if you started paying in 1990, and as I said, you were paying in $4,750 a year, and you were getting a return of 7.05% per annum, which is like most people, you're going to come out with $328,000 by 2015. Now, this has got absolutely nothing to do with your retirement age. This is just a sort of a time span, so you can see the difference. And if you got 10% more, so if you were to get an account that was returning 17.05% per annum year on year, but you are contributing still $4,750 per year, you will come out with $1.54 million. That's $1.2 million more by having that extra return. And these are by no means sort of far out figures. I mean, I've done this based off 9.5% contribution, even though we know that over the next few years, the government is going to be stepping it up. So in a few years, you're going to be paying, it'll be increase your contributions up to 12% of your wage going in. And this doesn't take that into account because that number will be higher. Both of those lines will move upwards because of that. But it's just so it's simple so you can understand what I'm saying. Like I say, because you're in the stock market and it's cyclic, so there's booms and busts, wins and losses. 1 year is showing, you've definitely got an increase, in the shorter period of time, which means recently there's been some very good returns, and that basically means that it's very likely to drop very soon, which sort of fits in with what I'm saying about the debt problem, the debt cycle. So let's continue. And by the way, 10% increase in returns you're going to see very shortly is achievable. I've done it personally. What you do, I don't know, but I personally have done this, and I'll tell you about that in a little while. So maybe you're thinking, well, I'm getting pretty good returns right now, that the average of 7% a year is pretty good. And all I can say is you don't know what you don't know. I mean, what I mean by that is that you have nothing to compare your 7% per year returns to, other than probably rubbishy savings accounts that the banks are the banks are saying, okay, do this. I mean, you might get sort of 3% at the moment on a bank account, so 7% would probably seem fairly attractive. However, I personally get much better returns than that. So I've got an investment that will return 28% per year. That's like a land development. I've got another one that very recently finished that earned me a return of 40% in 6 months. 6 months, 40% return on investment. You're not going to get that with property. You're not going to get that in the stock market. Well, you could, but it's a bit like going to a casino. You might make a big win, but how many losses will you have taken to be able to do that? And by the way, you'd have to be a pretty good stock market trader or investor to do that. You're not just going to be able to pick it up and get lucky. It's just not going to happen. You're going to get hit. So like I say, I mean, it's not blind luck. This is something that I've done myself. I also have some other things that I'm currently looking at that are on a very conservative basis will return at least 20% per year. And those investments, you have to do pretty much nothing. Somebody else does it for you. You just take the money. So, and it's totally possible to do that with your super. You've got to want that. So start soon. So a little bit of a quote from an author called Karen Lamb. And she says, "A year from now, you may wish you had started today." I kind of like that. That's pretty cool. I mean, that's basically saying about the power of, in this instance, about the power of compounding interest that you saw in one of the previous graphs. But generally in life, it's about saying, if you'd have put the effort in now, you'll be reaping the rewards later. Or if you're already at that point later, you're reaping the rewards now and looking back and going, I'm glad I did that. So really, really cool thing to do. Absolutely, you need to do that. So another thing you need is the right team. So if you've got an industry super, you're probably used to like not doing anything for it. You pretty much probably ignore it, don't look at it, or you maybe look at it, at the end of financial year when your super fund sends you something to tell you how badly your super fund did. And you probably go, oh, well, I can't do anything about it. So you don't do anything with it. And that's fine. I don't, I'm not saying that I like to spend all my waking hours doing investing. I totally don't. One of my rules is the opposite of that. It needs to not take me a great deal of time. I need to have enough involvement to be able to take control of things, to be able to make the right choices, or the choices that I believe in. And then, based on based on that decision that I make, I then have the ultimate responsibility for, well, I tried and I did my best. At least I did that, and I did that based off actually getting involved enough to actually look and see what was possible, and what I was willing to risk to be able to get a certain reward, if that makes sense. So why do you need a team? Well, I'm assuming you're here because you want to do better with your investments, particularly your super fund. So you need people who already know what they're doing and can help you, who can help you achieve your lifestyle goals, people who themselves are doing it, like me. And that's what I looked for. I'm not telling you something to do something, to suit me. I'm doing this because I actually did exactly this. I talked to many financial advisors before I went down the path of investing, and a lot of the advice was very generic in nature. And I could see back then it was like, well, how is this going to in any way be tailored to me, and how is it going to get me ahead of everybody else who's doing things in a very generic way? And the answer was, it's exactly the same as what everybody else is doing, therefore I'm not going to do it because they're getting rubbish results and I want better. So I hope that makes sense. So the other thing is you've already got a job, and you probably don't want to, you probably don't want the extra work of running your own investments and basically having another job to do when you get home from the job you're currently doing. I'm guessing. I certainly don't. So this could be better than a mentor. So you could to get better returns. Generally, you go and actually look for a mentor. You go and try and find people who are already very successful in the area that you're wanting to invest in. I mean, that's generally what you do, right? So you go and follow experts. But how about if you could have them come and work for you? How cool would that be? So it definitely makes a lot more sense to follow an expert who already, makes some pretty impressive returns with investments that you want to be in. And like I say, wouldn't it be great if you could get them to do a lot of the work for you, so you get the returns like they get, and you do almost nothing for it? I mean, that'd be pretty bloody cool, wouldn't it? Really? I mean, let's face it. Wouldn't you prefer to have an expert that's already done like really well with the given investment themselves? Like if you could get, for example, Donald Trump to sort out your property portfolio for you. Well, I'm a little bit sorry, but we don't have Donald Trump to help you out, unfortunately. But we do have some very excellent experts that are here to be able to help you to achieve. Actually, recently, I've just done something with I mean, this is actually outside of my super fund, but this can actually happen inside your super if you've got, if your personal circumstances are right for it. I recently bought a duplex, and that's coming in for evaluation. So basically, I bought it at essentially $50,000 at least less than what it than what it's actually worth. And this was, the first case was the bank valuer did that and agreed with that, and they're usually very what should we say, conservative with their estimations. So if he's being conservative and came in and said you've just made 50 grand, I'm pretty happy with that, because the real valuation may be higher. But doing that, I've done pretty much nothing. I didn't find the property. I had my team find it for me. They gave me some research for me to read over and to basically double check and to do my own research and see whether it agrees with what they'd said. And if it does, then obviously I can start to proceed with the investment. Now that's got to the end, and we went and saw it on the weekend, and I am so happy with the results there. It's a really classy duplex, really nice, really roomy, and I wouldn't, I probably wouldn't live there now, because we're we're at a different stage of life. But when we last rented, I absolutely would have lived there. I mean, it was very similar to the place that we lived in, and yeah, really, really happy with it. And that sort of thing is the sort of thing that you can do. I like I say, I did the research at the beginning. I basically got together the funding for the deposit. Then the team took over. I had the only thing that I had to do while it was being built was make sure that the invoices were paid, which is basically a case of you sign the invoice and then you send that with a payment slip to the bank, where you got your loan from, and then they do the next bit for you, and then at the end we have my team took me around the property with my wife, and we were both blown away. It's really, really nice, really beautiful location, which that's not normally what you expect from an investment property, but this was absolutely fantastic. And the other thing, by the way, I mean, we've not actually rented it out yet. We're basically expecting a tenant in the next couple of days, but we're putting it up for rent for the exact amounts that the team recommended we should be charging, and these are not like high rents at all, so it will very easily rent out. And we know some other people who built theirs just before us, and theirs rented out like very quickly with the same values. So looking really, really good. And this sort of stuff is really, really exciting. I mean, to me, this is not like work. This is just like, this is fun. It's like, well, look at that. I just made 50 grand and my rent it's positive cash flow. So what that basically means is my rent covers all my costs. So my mortgage payments, my insurances, my any bills, anything like that, it all is covered by the rent. So I'm not digging into my pocket to basically, I'm pretty much put it in a different way. I'm pretty much renting some money that pays for itself from the bank that gives me 50 grand now. It might make more, and I expect that it will, but right now it's just made me that money, and probably more even. Anyway, we'll continue. So yeah, some more examples of nice returns. So like I said, I've just told you a little bit about some of the properties. So yeah, my team goes and looks for those for me. I've actually got another one lined up for later in the year. Same sort of deal, just a bigger one. This sort of stuff, this sort of momentum that once you get going, you keep going. It's absolutely, it's really exciting, guys. That's all I can say. It's just really, really good. I mean, I couldn't not do this now. It's cool. It's really cool. I mean, when you first do it, you're not sure of the process, and how it all works out. But, because you've got that good team that you trust and they tell you what you need to do and everything, you go through it once and you're like, wow, this is so cool. This is so easy. And, I can just keep, doing these over and over again. And another example is foreign exchange. So it's a pretty complicated area, isn't it, really? I mean, I know probably enough to be dangerous, but quite possibly also enough to lose my shirt in the process. So my team runs the investments and I just get to monitor how it's doing. And like, who doesn't like to see the money grow, right? I mean, it's that simple. It's very, 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 very cool. Very, very easy to do. Sounds like almost like too good to be true, but promise you it's not. And so, I mean, the thing with foreign exchange is you don't always get winning trades, but overall, if you're making money, that's what you're looking for. So for foreign exchange, it might not be for everybody. If you're very defensive, then you possibly wouldn't do that because you wouldn't be able to sleep at night. But if you're somebody who, you can say, okay, well, I can put that money down, and if I lost it, I wouldn't, it wouldn't be the end of the world. You'll sleep a lot better. And if you're doing that with somebody who actually knows what they're doing and they've got a track record of making money out of it, then that kind of, that team you're going to trust a lot more than you're going to trust yourself to try and do it, or you are unless you're very naive, because let me tell you, it's very, very difficult to make money with foreign exchange unless you know what you're doing. So, as I said, I'm also looking, to be getting a I'm looking into something that's going to be on a very conservative basis, returning 20% per year. You can actually get, this is really cool, you can actually get your money back after 3 years. So the money that you invest, so I don't know, let's say you put $40,000 in there, you're making 20% per year on that investment, and then after 3 years you get your 40 back. And yes, you could, there'd be no reason why you couldn't go on and reinvest that again and do another 3 years and so on and so on. That's like, I mean, and the basis of this this particular investment, I can't go into it because just because I don't know I don't want to tell you something and then you get excited about this and then it turns out that you can't do it because it doesn't suit your personal circumstances. But this is something that you have a tangible asset that you own, that you could sell in addition to having this thing that makes money. It's very, very cool. And when you've got that kind of covers your risk a little bit. That worst case is you could if there wasn't that you could return it back after 3 years. That tangible asset you could dispose of and get very close to what you paid for it anyway. Which is which means that the risk is sort of fairly minimal, but the fact that you can get all of it back after 3 years is just it's a no-brainer. The risk with this one would basically be if that company ran off with your money. Pretty much, other than that, if they're legitimate, and I can tell you because I know a little bit about this, they're making a decent clip for themselves. And if you're happy with 20% per year, you take it. Doesn't matter how much they're making, you take it. They're going to be there because they're making some decent money out of doing a really good service for you, and you've got very little risk in that. So why wouldn't you do that? Another example would be, you could make sort of 60 to 100k. Actually, you can make more than that, but renovating houses, and this is not like any ordinary renovation. Where you buy a crappy house that needs fixing up, and you apply a lick of paint and expect to you might make a few grand on it, but you're not going to make a ton of money. This is not like that at all. This is like you provide the funding, and then somebody comes in and gets a load of tradies in there to basically maximize the property value. Now you don't choose the property; they choose the property for you, the one that's going to get you the best returns. This is very much done from an investment perspective rather than from it's not a DIY thing, but you're basically getting somebody to do that, and then you're still making those returns. I mean, could you, if you were in a this is over I think it's over 3 months, something like that, or 3 months, maybe even less than that. I think it was something like 6 weeks that they can do them. If you were making sort of like 60k on the low end to for a renovation, even if you had to pay somebody a little bit of money, it's still worth it. I mean, that's actually profit anyway, but I mean, even if you did have to pay them 10k, it's still worth it, so you're making 50k, and I'm not saying this, you do make 60k, but you're making, this would be worth it even if you had to pay somebody to do that, but you don't. They just do it all for you and go, there you go, it's done, there's your money. Who doesn't like that? Aye, captain. So with the right team, you're like the captain of a ship. So you decide where to go and you decide how fast you're going to go to get there. Now, it's a very simple little analogy, but it's absolutely true. It's like I was saying, you're basically, you know the basics, but you don't know the deep down stuff. So you have your team giving you, showing you all the different boxes that you need to tick, and then you go and tick them, and then, or you tell them to tick them, whichever, or you do a combination of the two, and you're good to go. It's really that simple. So you're possibly thinking, one, I have a lot of stuff to do. So it is actually possible with the right team to do almost as little as you currently do with your industry super, but with a few exceptions. So you have ultimate responsibility of making sure that you and your team fulfills your obligations for you. Now, I'm not going to go into that now. There are some, I'll be perfectly honest with you, there are some fairly stiff penalties for not fulfilling your obligations, but people will remind you in your team what you need to do. You're not on your own to remember these things, but you know, that is the case. You do have stuff that you need to do, but to me, that's well worth the returns that you get. And, you know, if you get a lifestyle where you can retire much earlier than everybody else, and you don't have to worry about, you know, getting to 70 and not being able to get a job, or not being able to pay for your bills or the heating or whatever, you know, to me, that's way worth it. You know, you make the decisions what you're going to invest in. So that does take a little bit of time, I'll be honest with you. But, you know, like I said, and you can probably tell, as I said, because I get all excited about, you know, oh, you just got a duplex, or I did a return and, you know, in 6 months I got 40%. I mean, you'd do that. You'd seriously do that, because you'd be like, well, the amount of, you know, maybe I put in for the duplex, maybe I put in, I don't know, a lot less than a week's worth of hours. So a lot less than 40 hours in a week. Let me put it that way. And 40 hours, would you work 40 hours in a week to get, you know, $50,000, for example? Or would you work, I mean, with the other one that did the 40% in 6 months, that was much, much less than that. That would have been, if I did 2 hours, you know, that's probably a lot more than I actually did. And I got 40% in 6 months. So the amount of effort involved there is fairly low, but you do have to take these things seriously. It's you who's in control. So if things don't go to plan, and this is possible, you know, I'm not saying this is risk-free, because it isn't. There are risks in all of these. But to me, risk is about understanding, you know, what can happen, and then planning for it, so that if something does happen, that you've got a situation that can take care of it. You know, you know, then it's not a risk. It's a situation that may occur, if that makes sense. You know about it, so it's not an unknown thing, so it's not going to surprise you. It's like, okay, well, you know, if the worst that can happen is this, then you can make a judgment call. Is the return that I'm getting worth the amount of risk that I actually have to make? And that's how you do it. It's that simple. But you know, there are risks involved. There definitely are risks. I mean, that's just the way that it is. And you need to make sure that you understand how the investment works and what it will do for you. I mean, that's all part of the due diligence process. And like I say, it doesn't take a massive amount of time, especially if you've got experts who are telling you where to look, what to do, that sort of thing. It's super simple. Now, don't get me wrong, you know, like I said, you do have responsibilities. There is some work, and if you want to do absolutely nothing for your super, you know, to take no responsibility, then I'll be honest with you, this is just not for you. You need to stick with what you have, with the poor returns you're getting and the complete lack of control. You got to live with that, and you've got to be happy about it, because this is just not for you. If you are willing to put in the effort and to take the responsibility, then this might well be something that could be fantastic for you, as it has been for me. So, can I ask you something? I mean, is it okay for me to talk about our program now? You know, now that I've given you a little bit of information. So I want you to just type yes in the chat box there, if that's okay. Yeah. Okay, cool, fantastic, brilliant. Okay, so self-managed super funds. I don't know whether any of you have come across the concept. It's a bit of a the name can be a little bit misleading. I mean, that is absolutely correct what it is that you're doing there, but self-managed super funds sounds like a lot more involving than it actually needs to be. So you take control. You own your future. You make the changes to get the returns that you want. And this is going to make it really hard for the government to steal your super, even if you're a government employee, because the the main reason behind it is that when you have a self-managed super fund, you're basically the director of a company, and then that's related to company law, and the government would need to have a special legislation that allows them to overcome company law to be able to seize the assets of your self-managed super fund, and that is going to be a lot harder for them to do than just go look into your industry fund and just go, "Zoink, there you go, I'm having that, thank you, bye bye," because they only have to do it with these sort of semi-embed with the government type companies that are that they can much more easily convince. Well, you're it's a bit of sort of a give and take scenario with them, and so they're doing a deal to basically allow that to happen. I'm guessing, the government's kind of going, okay, that's ours, we're going to do this. There you go. That's how that is. So, like I say, you can take control of your investments, and the only way that the government is going to get access to them, because you've invested in whatever you want to. So, let's say you've got a few properties. Absolutely possible to do that, and with a lot less than you'd think, with some very clever little strategies. You could have properties, you could have some gold, sat in a vault somewhere, so you could feel like James Bond, because you can go and visit it. You're perfectly allowed to do that. Those sorts of things. And for the government to be able to take that money now off you, they would have to liquidate your assets. So they'd have to go and sell those properties, and they'd have to sell your gold. And let's be perfectly honest, they'd have to seize those assets to be able to get control to do that in the first place, as they have absolutely no right over them at all. It's the self-managed super fund is the trustee for those assets, so they need to control that, and they're just not going to do it. Let me tell you, they're just not going to do it. It's in the government too hard basket, because they've basically got to pay somebody to overcome all these problems, and they're going to get into more debt than they're going to get out of it, because they don't know how much you've got necessarily. The ATO do, I guess, the tax office do. So then, you could be making some really much bigger returns. Like I said, well, I've told you what I've done. I can't tell you what you'll do, because it depends on your tolerance for risk and your own personal circumstances, but absolutely possible that you can do a lot better than you currently are. Like I said before, it probably seems too good to be true, and I know I thought that when I first started out, and I got told, 20% returns are, very achievable, and I can now absolutely vouch for that. 20% would be a kind of a minimum level for me. Unless it was super low risk, I would not be looking at anything under that, because why would you, when there are things out there that you can get those sort of returns for? Depends on the risk there, though. If you're taking absolutely zero risk and you've got basically something that's equivalent to cash, but you're making a semi-reasonable return, and what I mean by a semi-reasonable return is actually something better than you could get on a savings account in a bank, that's what you might do it then. But otherwise, you just wouldn't do it. So and that's the thing. Because of the good job that the banks and the super funds have done in marketing to you, telling you that 3% per year is a fantastic return. You think like when you get your super fund returns and it's 7% per year, that's outstanding. That's more than double. But it's not. You don't know that, and I thought that exactly the same when I first started out, but it's just not the case. It's just not the case. So what will a self-managed super fund do for you? Well, like I say, it allows you to directly control your own super fund. It allows you to generate much bigger returns, as you've already seen. The reason for that is because you have a choice. You could say, okay, well, I'm going to invest in a stock market. I personally wouldn't be doing that myself at the moment. You could be investing in property. You could be investing in, foreign exchange. You could be doing some other stuff, maybe those renovations or some of these other investments that I'm talking about. And because you've got that flexibility, I mean, you could even go for things like you can invest in wine. I mean, I had no idea why you would invest in wine. I mean, for me, it's for drinking and enjoying. I don't know why you would keep something like that, but you could invest in wine. And you're not allowed to drink it, by the way. You could get badly in trouble if you did. And art, you could do art, for example. I mean, I don't know anything about art, but if you were an art guru, you might want to invest in some art, and it might be worth a fortune later on. It really is that flexible, but I wouldn't recommend going in, doing anything like that unless you know about it. And like I say, it will require you only to do a little bit more than you already do with your super, for what I think is a much better result. And I think probably you would agree, having seen what you've seen. So yeah, if you don't control something, then it's not really yours. It's basically what I mean by that statement is when you don't have control, then somebody else has control, and they can change your end result without you being able to do anything about it. That's what I mean by that. So you don't have control, and somebody else can screw up your future. For me personally, that is not acceptable. So how do you feel about giving away your super to the government, and if you're lucky, maybe getting a pittance back in return? It doesn't matter how much you've got in your super fund, whether it's 10 grand, whether it's 100,000, 400,000, a million. That should be yours to access, and more, by the way, when you retire, and it should be tax-free. You need to make the government accountable and not let them steal it. Returns. So if you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to be short of money when you retire. I mean, he's not here today, but Mike tells me before he started with the self-managed super, he was looking at, and he'd been working in the government for 25 years, I think he said. And he had enough to, so if he carried on at that rate, when he retired, he would get $20,000 per year from his super fund. That's just, you can't live on that. That's ridiculous. I mean, if the average is 50,000, you're swapping, 9.5% of your $50,000 salary to get 20,000 back. That's terrible. That's awful. I wouldn't do that. And that's the thing. That's, he's not here today, but Mike would tell you that as well. I mean, that's why he changed himself. So you're going to be struggling. You're going to get to your retirement age, and you're going to be struggling to keep warm in winter, find food, pay medical bills, and all because you didn't take action today. You didn't find a way to get better returns. And like I showed you, a difference of 10% on a sort of a $4,750 contribution per year over 25 years, without any additional contributions, can result in sort of 1.5 million instead of 300,000. That just blows your mind. I mean, 1.5 million isn't a massive amount of money, but we are being ultra conservative with these numbers. The reality is that you probably put in more than $4,750. And also, one thing that you do need to be very clear about is that you once you get onto this investing journey, you're very likely to find other things that you're going to invest in that are outside of your super. So you're going to be making more money as income anyway. So you'll probably have more money that you can put into super anyway. You're just going to be I don't want to say a smarter cookie, but you're going to know a lot more, and you're going to be able to do a lot more with the knowledge that you do have. So what difference, for example, would 1.2 million extra dollars do for you, do you think, when you retire? What difference in lifestyle do you think that would make? I mean, you think you could reasonably expect to get a new car every so often and be able to pay for your your bills and all that sort of stuff. I would suggest that you most certainly would be able to, and I think that, like I say, 1.5 million is conservative, so it's probably going to be more. So you get if you get a team, and then SMSF isn't going to be, it shouldn't be something that's scary to you. Self-managed, yes, it's self-managed. You make the decisions, but it's not like you actually have to do the work. There are ways to get people to do stuff for you, so they can make money with their business, and you can make money for your super, and everybody's happy. And it's not that difficult to do. You just need the right team. So you're getting people who know what they're doing and are easy and fun to deal with. So if you could get all this good stuff and somebody else was doing it for you, so you don't have to spend your evenings and weekends doing this, how much would that be worth to you? You think that'd be worth a fair? It is to me anyway. I take that very seriously. I refuse to spend a lot of time doing this stuff, and you don't need to. You really don't. So how does it work? Well, we need to have an obligation-free chat with you to see if this will work for you, and if we can, and like I say, if we can work together, then we put together an action plan, and we execute the action plan, and then you watch as your super fund grows, and you'll get to find out what it is that you need to do to be able to so you don't get in trouble for running your super fund. But it's not that difficult. You just need to make sure that you know. What I'm going to do in a second is I'm going to drop in a link. So this is a link for you to fill in your details with us, and we'll contact you. We'll contact you to decide, whether we can work together and whether this can work for you, and so on. And you're more than welcome to chat to us. That's just there for you when you're ready. You can click it at any time. You can come back a little bit later. I mean, it says there available units, and they do. These do go down. If we do run out of those numbers, then obviously you'll have to wait a little while until we get some more freed up space. But assuming everything else is okay, then you'll be good to talk to us and to get things moving. So let me continue with this. So, reasons to contact us now. Well, quite simply, that the government is starting to use your money right now. So let me put it to you this way. Can you afford not to, and to let them steal your money? And you could keep things going like they are, getting your 7% per year. Or you could turn your super into something, that can fund your dreams, the retirements that people talk about, where you could say, I want to go and drive around Australia, or I want to go and drive, I want to go around the world. I mean, obviously from where you are, if you've only got a few years left, that's probably not going to be plausible. But, that you'll definitely be able to get a lot further than you can doing 7% per year. And the other thing that you need to be aware of is, because you're going to get better to investing, you'll probably also do other investments. So your super's funding your sort of day-to-day living expenses, but I think it is more than achievable for you to be able to also find investments that will fund lifestyle things like holidays for you, if that's what you wanted to do. And that's certainly my plan. I absolutely want to go and do that. So make sure you click that button and book a time to talk to us, and we'll definitely chat. So this is the time when we're going to go through a couple of questions, and if we don't get to all of them, because there's quite a few that's come in already, then when we chat on the phone, that link there is also a link that will take you to the same page as that button that's in the webinar window. I would click the button because it's probably easier than typing all that out. but that's up to you. It's there if you want it. So I'm just going to go through a couple of questions now for you. So the first one, and this is a really, really good question. So how much super do I need to get started with a self-managed super fund? So look, the larger the fund, the less impact your yearly fees are going to have on it. So for example, I mean, let's just say that the fees are around about, I don't know, $2,000, something like that, $3,000. Obviously the percentage, the $3,000 as a percentage of the size of your account, if it's 100,000, is going to be a lot less than if it's 40,000. So obviously the bigger it is, the less the impact the fees are going to have. But that said, you know, we've done it with clients with as little as 40,000. You just got to make sure that you've got an investment that's going to stay ahead of those fees. And at first you think, oh, you know, how am I going to do that? But it's totally possible with 40,000. And one other thing as well is if you did have a lot less than that, we actually have some alternatives for you with super funds that will just get you much better returns than you're currently than we believe you're currently getting. You know, we have a super fund that does really, really well, and is able to be configured for your own particular needs. So you can do that, run that perhaps for a little while to build up your funds, and then get moving into self-managed super. You know, if we decide that it's just, you know, that it's not currently possible, but we can absolutely get you there, you know, assuming we can work together and everything else. Cool. So I've got another really good question here. So what can you invest in? Well, I told you a little bit about the wine and the art. Now, me personally, I'm not into anything exotic. You know, I just want an investment that's going to give me some good returns. I recommend that you would do the same, at least to start with, you know, doing simple stuff that you already know about, like shares and property and that sort of thing. But even within that shares and property, there are so many different ways to make money out of each of those asset classes, you know, that produce some outstanding results. We just need to find something that works well for you. You know, that's really all there is to it. But there's a ton that you can do. It's not just you buy a share, you hold it, and, you know, somehow we've got some magic voodoo that tells you that you always pick the right ones. That's not the case. There's no magic involved, you know, but there is some clever strategies that allow you to get to where you want to a lot quicker. You know, and we've got some experts who actually, for example, if it was in shares, they would be able to pick stocks a lot better or invest in Forex a lot better than you or I could. That's just the reality. So yeah, there are very, very many different things that you can invest in. I would just keep it simple to start with. But if you know about something like art or wine, and I mean, other than drinking it, or, you know, that's it, that's art there, then, you know, maybe you would do it. Maybe you would. I won't though. So look, we're getting an absolute ton still coming in with a ton of really, really good questions. So we want to keep this webinar pretty short. So I'm just gonna. I mean, if you want to contact us, you can ask the questions, and we'll chat on the phone and we'll answer them for you. Absolutely no problems at all. So we've got one, chance for one more question now. So that one's this is a pretty good one. So how does investing in my industry super fund differ from a self-managed super fund? Well, like I said before, your industry super fund is like a one size fits all type deal. So you're going to get average results, basically, because it's not specific to your needs. It's not specific to your risk tolerance. So if you're somebody who's very aggressive, for example, I mean, yes, you can fine tune those to a certain extent. But what those stocks are and where they're coming from is down to the fund manager, and let me tell you this, he doesn't care about how much your super fund grows, really. You know, he'll still get paid even if it goes backwards. Whereas, and that's the big difference with the self-managed super fund. You're in control. You get your team to find you something where they do care, because they basically won't make any money if you don't if you don't use their services, and they're not giving you good results. And this is not something where you're getting into and you're the first person to do it. There are other people who've already done it, and you can talk to them as well. Like myself, I'm more than happy to sit and chat with you just about what we've invested in, this sort of thing, and how easy it was, that sort of stuff. Any questions at all. And you can also talk to advisors as well, and they'll tell you from probably a slightly different perspective. But right, I'm very aware of the time now, so I'm just going to give it a couple of seconds, a couple of seconds more, and then I think we'll wrap it up. And just I'm just going to let you guys go, because we've been almost 45 minutes, and I was kind of hoping to do a 30-minute presentation, so I'm really sorry for that. I do get kind of excited, but hopefully this is giving you some really good insights into what you can do with your super, and I hope that I'm going to be speaking to you very soon. So until then, I will speak to you again. Take care, guys. Bye.